The call came on a crisp October morning in 2023, just as I was reviewing expansion plans for Rivera Lux properties in my Miami office. My assistant buzzed in. "Miss Rivera, Elegant Affairs Wedding Planning is on the line." I almost ignored it until I remembered my younger sister Bianca was getting married next month. Had quietly paid the $50,000 0 cents deposit 6 months ago when I learned they were struggling. I wanted her day to be perfect, even if my family never acknowledged me. "Elena Rivera speaking," I said. A polite voice answered. "Hi, this is Amanda from Elegant Affairs. I have some uncomfortable news." I put down my pen. "Go on." "Your family contacted us yesterday. They asked us to remove you from the guest list completely. They mentioned a family dispute and said you're not to attend." Her words hit like a blade, but I kept my tone steady. "I see." "One more thing," Amanda added. "They also requested to keep the $50,000 0 cents deposit you paid. Mrs. Henderson explained it's already been spent on other expenses." Through the glass wall, I stared at the Miami skyline. The one dotted with hotels and condos I owned. My family had no idea their failure of a daughter ran a $4,200,000,000 0 cents real estate empire. "Mrs. Rivera, are you there?" "Yes," I said coolly. "Cancel the wedding, everything. The venue, catering, flowers." Amanda gasped. "You can't, you're not the bride." "Amanda," I said softly, "who owns Elegant Affairs?" Rustling papers. "Rivera Lux Holdings." "And who owns Rivera Lux Holdings?" A long pause. "You." "Exactly. So yes, I can cancel this wedding." "In fact," I said, my voice like steel, "let me be more specific. Cancel their reservation at the Coral Bay Resort. That's one of mine too." Amanda stammered. What? And Ocean Lux Catering? Mine. The floral designs from Maison Verde? Also mine. The photography package from Radiant Lens Studio? Mine. The bachelor party suite at Azure Sands Resort? Mine." Her breathing quickened on the other end. "Ms. Rivera, I had no idea you were—" "There's more," I cut in smoothly. "The rehearsal dinner at Palmera Rooftop? Mine. Even the limo service they booked through Prestige Elite Transportation? Also mine." Silence. Then a shaky whisper. "But Miss Rivera, the wedding is in 3 weeks. 200 guests, everything's booked." "Cancel it all," I said calmly. "Refund deposits, guests paid for rooms. Then send the Henderson and Miller families an invoice for the remaining balance, minus my original $50,000 0 cents deposit, which I'm keeping as a cancellation fee." Amanda gasped. This will destroy the wedding." "That's not my problem anymore." When I hung up, I leaned back in my chair. 34 years old, and my family still thought I was the reckless dropout who threw her life away when I left NYU to chase an idea. They never knew that idea grew into Rivera Lux Holdings, one of the most powerful hospitality empires in the U.S. My phone buzzed, a text from Mom. "Elena, your attitude toward Bianca and Daniel has been unacceptable. It's best if you don't attend the wedding. We'll keep your contribution since it's spent." I smiled as I typed, "Understood, enjoy the celebration." What they didn't know? I built my empire in silence, starting with one failing venue in Little Havana. Today, I own everything they just lost. By year 4, I owned 7 venues across Florida and Georgia. That's when Rivera Lux Holdings was born. And I started acquiring every piece of the luxury event industry. Catering firms, floral design houses, photography studios, even high-end transportation services. My family had no clue. At holiday dinners, they'd ask politely about my little event job before launching into Bianca's fiancé Daniel and his impressive law career. When I bought my first oceanfront boutique hotel, I casually mentioned expanding into hospitality. They smiled, nodded, and moved on. The real growth came in years 6 and 7. While the economy slumped, I quietly acquired distressed resorts and restaurants, rebuilt them, and turned profits. Azure Sands Resort, Coral Bay Hotel, the Palmera Rooftop Dining Chain, all names my family bragged about visiting, never realizing their disgrace of a daughter, owned them. 30 minutes after I hung up with Amanda, my phone rang. Dad's voice was sharp. Elena, I just got a call saying the wedding venue was canceled. There must be some mistake. No mistake, Dad. What do you mean, no mistake? We have a contract with Revenge Events, a subsidiary of Revenge Holdings, which I own. Silence. Then, what are you talking about? You uninvited me from Bianca's wedding and tried to keep the $50,000, 0 cents. I paid for it, so I canceled everything else. You paid for the wedding? The venue, catering, hotel blocks, flowers, photography, rehearsal dinner, bachelor party, transportation, all my companies. You just cut off your only lifeline? More silence. Mom's voice joined faintly in the background. What companies? Elena, you plan parties? I almost laughed. Dad, I run Revenge Holdings. 47 venues, 18 resorts, 22 restaurants, 6 catering firms. Last year's revenue? $1,300,000,000, 0 cents. Check Forbes. Number 15 on their growth list. The line went dead quiet. And trust me, this conversation was only the beginning. If you want to see what happened when my family tried to fix their mistake, make sure you hit subscribe. You won't want to miss part 2. Elena, Mom's voice trembled on speaker. We had no idea you were this successful. You never told us. I almost laughed. I tried. Every holiday dinner for 8 years, I tried. Remember when I mentioned buying Azure Sands Resort? You said, that's cute, at least you're staying busy. When I told you about expanding into hotels, you asked when I'd get a real job. Dad cut in, but you dropped out of NYU. To build this empire, I replied. While Bianca's fiancé was studying law, I was writing contracts worth millions. He cleared his throat. Surely we can work something out. Bianca's wedding isn't my concern. You uninvited me, remember? Said I'd ruin your perfect day. We didn't know. You didn't know because you never listened. You saw a dropout and assumed failure. You never looked closer. My phone buzzed. Amanda again. Dad, I need to take this. I switched lines. Amanda? Miss Rivera, I've had calls all morning. Your parents, Bianca, even the groom's family. With 3 weeks' notice, it's impossible to rebook. Every quality venue is sold out. Catering, photography, everyone's locked in. I smiled faintly. What about Palmera Rooftop? Booked like the rest. Sir, ma'am, your mother called crying. There are 200 guests flying in. She's begging for a solution. Any solution? Yeah. Fine. They can have the wedding at the Mariposa Room, my smallest venue. Seats 80, max. Basic catering, house flowers, staff photographer. A stunned pause. That's 4 times the cost and half the space. $200,000, 0 cents paid up front. That's the offer. They wanted me out, but kept my money. Now they can decide, include me or pay market price. I hung up, smiling. They wanted control. Now the terms are mine. And if they refuse, I said calmly to Amanda, then they can get married at City Hall. I ended the call and went back to reviewing a resort acquisition proposal. 3 hours later, my phone lit up. Bianca. Elena, what the hell is happening? You're getting married. Congratulations. Don't play games. Mom's hysterical, Dad's been calling every vendor, and they all say you own their companies. What kind of twisted joke is this? It's not a joke, Bianca. It's business. Business? This is my wedding. Your wedding that I financed. Your wedding I was uninvited from. Your wedding my own family decided I wasn't worthy to attend. We thought it would be easier to erase me while keeping my $50,000, 0 cents? Does that sound like family to you? Silence. Then, softly. We didn't know it came from you because you never asked. Just like you never asked about my life or my work. You all assumed I was the dropout failure and moved on. And that's not fair. I laughed bitterly. Fair? You canceled my invitation without hesitation. Tell me, Bianca, when was the last time you asked me a real question about my life? She stayed silent. Here's the deal. I said finally. You can have your wedding at one of my venues, but I want 3 things. A formal apology from the entire family, acknowledgement that you misjudged me, and my invitation restored. Not as pity, but because you want me there. Elena, of course we want you there. And do you? Or do you want my money there? A shaky breath. What if we don't agree? Then you pull off a 200-guest wedding in 3 weeks with 0 industry connections? Good luck. Silence stretched. And if we agree? Then you get a stunning wedding and your sister stands by your side like family should. I need to talk to Mom and Daniel. Of course you do, I said before ending the call. That evening my phone rang again. This time it wasn't Bianca. It was Daniel's fiancée, Jennifer. Elena, it's Jennifer. We need to talk. Congratulations on your engagement, I replied evenly. Thank you. Listen, I had no idea about any of this. Marcus never told me you were helping with costs, and I definitely didn't know about your businesses. Most people don't. I've been researching all afternoon. Rivera Lux Holdings? It's massive. You own half the venues I dreamed of for my wedding growing up. It's been a good few years, I said simply. Her voice softened. Alina, I owe you an apology. We all do. I was there when your parents decided not to invite you. I should have said something. More than life? A pause. Because Marcus made you sound like the reckless sister who never got her act together. I believed him. But now I realize Marcus doesn't know you at all. None of them do. Her voice cracked. Elena, I'd be honored to have you at our wedding, not because of your money, but because you're Marcus's sister. You clearly care about family more than they ever realized. And Marcus? He's processing. Your parents? They're shaken. They've spent years treating you like the failure. Now they know you're the most successful person in the room. I smiled faintly. Success isn't about money. No, Jennifer whispered. But respect should be about giving credit where it's due. And you've deserved it for a long time. The next day, Amanda called. Ms. Rivera, your family accepted your terms. Deposit paid. Invitation restored. Your father asked me to tell you they want a formal apology meeting. And Marcus, he wants to know if you'd be his maid of honor. I leaned back, gazing at the Miami skyline. 8 years they called me a failure. 8 years they were wrong. Yes, Amanda, I said calmly, schedule the meeting for Saturday, the Mariposa Room at Coral Bay Resort, my private dining space, and make sure the catering is flawless. By 2 p.m., everything was perfect. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed the turquoise ocean. Crystal chandeliers sparkled above a mahogany table set for 6. This resort had once been a failing property. I'd turned it into Miami's crown jewel. I stood by the window when they arrived. Mom, Dad, Bianca, and Daniel. Their eyes swept across the room, awe written all over their faces. Elena, Dad said stiffly, extending a hand. Thank you for meeting us. Please, I gestured to the table, as servers entered with a curated tasting menu from the same kitchen that served governors and celebrities. Mom's voice was soft. This place is unbelievable. I had no idea. That I owned it? I asked lightly. I mentioned buying a resort 3 years ago. You said, that's nice. Dad cleared his throat. Elena, we owe you an apology. A big one. Go on. We misjudged you. For years we saw what we wanted to see instead of the truth. Bianca leaned forward, eyes glassy. I'm sorry for dismissing you, for uninviting you, for assuming you didn't matter. Why did you assume that? Because you dropped out of college, because you didn't take the traditional path, because you never bragged about what you'd built. I tilted my head. Would bragging have changed anything? Bianca shook her head slowly. No, but if you'd told us clearly. I smiled faintly. I told you when I bought my first hotel chain. You said, that's nice, then switched the subject to Daniel's latest case. Jennifer spoke softly. Elena, we'd like to start over. All of us. We want to know about your life, Mom said softly. Your business, your plans. We want to be a real family. I studied their faces. And if I hadn't turned out wealthy, what then? Dad didn't flinch. Then, we probably would have kept misjudging you. That's what makes this so shameful. At least he was honest. Mom's eyes filled with tears. Elena, I'm proud of you. Not just for what you've built, but because even after everything, you still wanted to help with the wedding. You're my family. That matters. Even when I didn't act like it. Bianca stood suddenly, walking around the table. For the first time, her confidence seemed cracked. Elena, I know I don't deserve this, but would you be my maid of honor? I looked at my sister, the golden child who'd lived by every rule, never taking risks, never building anything of her own. For the first time, she looked uncertain, vulnerable, like she finally saw me. Bianca, I said softly, I'd be honored. The wedding took place 3 weeks later at the Mariposa Room, my smallest venue, yet still breathtaking. The terrace overlooked gardens featured in Architectural Digest. My staff executed the event flawlessly, while my family looked on, speechless. During my toast, I faced 200 guests. Whispers about my empire floated through the room, but I spoke from the heart. When Bianca and I were kids, I began, she always looked up to me. Somewhere along the way that changed. She started thinking I'd taken the wrong path, that I'd given up on success. But the truth is, I never gave up on success. I just defined it differently. I paused, meeting my parents' eyes. Success isn't about meeting someone else's expectations. It's about building something meaningful and sharing it with the people you love. Glasses clinked, cameras flashed, and for the first time in years, I felt like family again. Later, on the terrace, Dad approached quietly. Elena, why didn't you just tell us? Why let us believe you were struggling? I smiled faintly. Because I wanted you to be proud of me for who I was, not what I owned. I wanted you to believe that taking a different path could still have value. And we failed that test. You did, I admitted. But you passed the one that mattered most, tonight. When you had the chance to choose pride over family, you chose family. He put a hand on my shoulder. I'm proud of you, not for the billions, but for your character. You had every reason to walk away. Instead, you saved your sister's wedding. He smiled. Family is family, Dad, even when they don't act like it. Driving home, I thought about the 8 years I'd spent building an empire in plain sight of a family that never saw me. The dropout who became a powerhouse. The failure who became the foundation. My phone buzzed. A text from Bianca. Thank you for everything. I'm sorry it took this long to really see you. I'm lucky you're my sister. I typed back, welcome to the family business. Because that's what it had always been about. Not just building companies, but building something strong enough to bring family back together. The next morning, I woke up to 18 missed calls and 50 texts, not just from family, but from social media buzz about the wedding. Photos of the venue trended, and for the first time, my parents asked when we could have dinner again. Real dinner, family dinner. As I sat in my office, overlooking the Miami skyline I helped shape, I realized something. I want to hear from you. What would you have done in my place? After 8 years of being underestimated, I finally had the power to choose between pride and family. Did I make the right call? Leave your thoughts in the comments and share any advice you'd give to someone who feels overlooked or underestimated. And if my story resonated with you, hit subscribe, because there's more to come, and I'd love to take you on this journey with me. Remember, success isn't about proving people wrong. It's about building something meaningful and never losing your heart along the way.